All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the SurgeCast. We're so excited to be talking to you because Canes hockey is officially back. I'm
Thank
Kat.
God. I'm Bailey.
I'm Zach.
How are you guys feeling about the first two games?
As long as we don't talk about the first one, I'm feeling great.
Well, we got to cover it,
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, yeah. Good. It's kind of, first game. It's one of those things, new season jitters, a whole new lineup.
Yeah.
Game 2, a lot better. Got to see a lot of, first goals of the season, first goal of careers. So, hey, you're feeling good going into the 6-game road trip for the state fair. So, honestly, feeling pretty good. Feeling really optimistic about the road trip.
I will say, I'm sure Rod looked at that second game and was like, "This is how hockey is supposed to look," compared to that.
I actually know what I'm watching this time.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I saw all of Rod's seasons. This was the home opener. Yeah, the home opener was first regulation loss and a season opener as a head coach. He'd won 5 straight and lost in overtime his first season.
Yep.
So, that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
But it was against Tampa Bay, who we are very familiar with and kind of have our number when we play against them.
Yeah, I was gonna
I'm pretty sure Rod was the one that said we got Kucherov. So
yeah, it's hard when you're going against a guy who was in contention for the Hart last year. You know kind of what you're going up against. You got guys like Jake Gensel too, who were back in the building, earned his fair share of boos.
Also, Vasilevsky started the season this year.
Vasilevski'd. What else?
Yeah, he definitely didn't blink. I don't know if Gensel did a whole bunch. Yes, we booed him. I didn't see a whole lot.
I wouldn't say he was super evident, but it's still, that prospect, we were so close to signing him, there was that whole prospect. There's a little bit of, I don't know if I'd call it beef there, but there's that prospect of, he was almost a Hurricane for at least a second season. And then all of a sudden the tides kind of flip and he decided to go to a different direction. And there's, I think, a little bit of heartache, I think, not just from the team, but from fans too.
Yeah,
in that aspect,
especially for how long it took too, for the fact that you're doing it like day 2 of the draft, kind of having to scramble and stuff like that. And unfortunately, like you said, Bailey, too, with how Kucherov, 120 something points last year, he gets a natural Hattie. But to be fair, it was technically a 2-1 game because empty netters. Yes, it was 4-1 on the board, but if you really want to look at it, it's a 2-1 game. And also, if you really want to go down to the minute details, even strength, Hurricanes was 1-0 Hurricanes and even strength. It's just the
special teams didn't really look like we're used to seeing them.
You cannot give them 6 power plays and then give them 2 goals and one of them being Nikita Kucherov. Because I said this as a preview and a key to the game: stay out of the box. Tampa always kills you on special teams, and what happens? We get 6 penalties that kill us for 2 of them, and that's technically their 2 real goals. All goals count because even empty netters. But you get my point, though, is the fact
it hits Twine,
yeah, but in reality, it's a 2-1 game where it's mainly special teams. But even 5-on-5, the Hurricanes did their job.
It was a little difficult too because while our power play didn't look super great, we actually didn't have a lot of. We didn't have a lot of full power plays. I feel like we had a couple of shortened ones because we committed a penalty as well. So unfortunately, we had some 4-on-4 I felt more so than we did a full power play to see it really in action. But to say that Kucherov showed up, he clearly showed up, and it kind of hurts worse if Kucherov shows up. But unfortunately, we didn't really see Sebastian Aho do much on the ice. You saw Jarvis was present. Svech was also present. And honestly, the biggest presence on the ice for the Carolina Hurricanes was that third line.
I do have a question for you guys, though. How do you feel about that late-minute switch from Svech and Roslovic? Because we saw all preseason in camp, it was Roslovic on the top line.
I don't like it.
You go to that game 1, and
I don't like it.
Here's Svech, and you're kind of like,
I don't like it. I'm going to tell you, in person, Roslovic and Natchez played the same game, and they don't know how to play together well. I personally don't think that second line. I know some people and I know we'll get to it. The Devils game, they said Natchez played better. I personally think there wasn't the connection there, and I know a lot of them will play it on they'll put a lot of blame on KK as well for not producing. But he's also putting in a lot of defense for a line of kind of two Natchez's at the moment.
We'll talk about this later.
We'll talk about
we'll talk about it later. I personally really liked KK in the Devils game, but we'll get to that.
I agree, but I'm saying I don't know why we switched it. We saw a lot of the line with Roslovic on the top line, and I don't know why, because I feel like if you switch him and Svech, you get Aho, but you get a Natchez present up there, which they played well together. Natchez and Aho have played well. So if you have a similar type player, and then you have a net front in Jarvis, I feel like that should click. And then Svech has always played pretty well with KK, and
Svech is starting to catch that penalty bug again.
He's catching the penalty bug, but he's doing he's throwing the hits, and he's getting some really good looking shots. In both
almost went for the cross goal too. But I didn't mean to interrupt you earlier, Kat. I just want to get both of your opinions on just how the fact you get that late minute switch automatically game one, where it's okay, but we have not seen that combination at all.
Yeah.
I it might not just be us not seeing it. They might have run it a few times. Not that I've seen it reported, but I mean,
I will say I liked Roslovic a lot more in game 2 than I did in game 1. Game 1, I honestly I wasn't super impressed. But then again, I wasn't super impressed in many different facets on the ice. I mean, I will say too, obviously you see the Lightning, Kucherov showing up, Vasilevsky showing up. They've got their top guys doing their jobs. One of the first games of the season, that's exactly what you want your guys to be, is well rested and ready to go. We did not look that way at all. Yes, 5-on-5 looked decent, and I think if we could have stayed a little more disciplined, it might have looked a little bit better. But fact of the matter for me is just our guys didn't show up. They
outside of the third line, like Kat said, which I said, sorry for interrupting you, Kat, but
the third line was the only line that really showed up, and it was interesting. It was nice to see the Jordans just picked up their new line mate, and we're like, "Yep, we're doing business as normal." Yeah. And I've honestly been super impressed with Carey.
Throwing some huge hits too.
They do. If they are on the ice, we are not in our end.
Let me just say, it's really unfortunate about Foss' situation, but 100%. Let me just tell you how much I love William Carrier on this line with the Jordans. I think that is as good of a perfect fit as you're going to find with what we got during free agency.
I will say this. I will say this too. Let's just fast forward the clock a little bit. We all want Jesper Foss to re-sign with Carolina because it's his last year of his deal.
Absolutely.
But think about this as a possible fourth line when we get Foss back. How about him on the left with Jury and Blake on your fourth line?
I mean, you're freeing if Carey sticks around in that line. Yeah, you free up Foss to kind of be
kind of like your roamer, go from the second to the fourth. Kind of
stick around anywhere and get thrown in different places if guys get injured. Don't mind that.
I will say, and that's what Rod kind of prides himself on too, is creating a team that's versatile or creating players that are versatile too. You don't see, I think we're seeing a little bit more, and it's really back and forth, but sometimes we see that first line become really consistent, and then Rod Blendamore, that's our nickname. We see that kind of come out too, and I think it's not something you see with teams all that often, or at least something I'm seeing, unless something's not working, they're trying to find something that clicks. You see a lot of consistency. When they find what works, they stick with that. Rod Brendamore is always trying to get the leg up. He's always trying to find some extra spark. Maybe if he's not getting in some place, okay, switch this around here and see if it works. If not, that's what mid-game line switches are for.
Right.
That's
exactly.
why you shuffle the cards a little bit. And so I think when Jesper Foss comes back and we potentially see some of these guys we've acquired during the off season maybe stick around for a little bit longer too, I'd love to see that kind of shuffle and see that versatility kind of become instilled in this team too, because I mean, we talk a lot too. A lot of our core is gone, or a good portion of our core is gone too. So there's a whole new teaching system coming about here as well.
Right, exactly. And even too, like going back to game one of like other guys that stood out, I thought Jackson Blake kind of stood out really well for himself in his first, opening night game, and did create some chances and stuff like that. So I mean, it's one of those things. Yeah, a lot of jitters for your first night, but I thought he stood up pretty well. All things considered, and other than that, Freddie Anderson, gave him only 2 goals, so that's a good start.
I think Freddie. I can't blame a lot of that on Freddie. I think Freddie looked solid for the game.
No, there was a goal I think Coach would want back in the second game, but I don't think there's one that really is on Freddie in that first.
With all the penalties, too, like you're on the penalty kill 6 times in that game. That's tough for any goalie to have to get peppered that many times. In a shorthanded situation. So yeah, honestly, I mean, we'll just say early, both games with our goalies, I thought both of them looked great.
Absolutely.
But I know we'll talk about game 2 a little bit later. But yeah, honestly, as of right now, just early on in the pod, I would say both goalies stood up perfectly. Like I have no complaints.
I will ask you guys too, because I know how I feel about this. Given how the game went, given how special teams looked, how did you feel about Rod pulling the goaltender? Because I personally, with the way things looked, with how the man advantage kind of looked throughout the game, I wouldn't say you want to try it once, but to try it twice, it kind of stuck with me a little bit.
Well, I mean, a lot of coaches do usually pull their goalies even though they're down by 2, because that's kind of a thing they have to do. So
I'm not saying that's not okay. I mean, I personally don't know if Rod's sitting there after press and saying, I don't know what the heck I was watching tonight, that would almost kind of give me a little pause and say, okay, then why did you pull the goaltender if maybe your team's maybe not on there? I don't know. I think he still had to operate. Like that's what he would have done even in a game where we're playing well. We're just not getting the bounces. So I think he's just going to operate and do the same thing he would do as if still has faith in them to maybe pull one and see what happens. He's done it like end of last season. We had a couple of last minute goals that way. Mm-hmm. So I think he was trying to see, hey, what's going to happen. Okay. I will say honestly, that part of the game, I don't think anyone was too oh, why did we do that? We were so it was just kind of oh, okay. That's something you got to do by the playbook. I will say I get the first one. I get pulling it the first instance of pulling Freddie. I'm not sitting there dogging that at all. Me personally, I understand it. I feel what you're saying. I think it's just kind of that thing of, I think in their mind is we're already losing and
go for it.
In the long run, just go for it. I also understand sometimes I'm oh, it looks so much worse on the score sheet if we do this. But I mean, in the long run, you've got a team where it's your first game and you got to get all the guys kind of getting into the groove of things. So operate like normal and see, hey, maybe we can get something going. If not, I mean, it's clearly going to show this is on Freddie.
That's why I said the 4-1 score is very deceptive of how it went. I mean, really, it was a 2-1 game. It's just empty netters make it look worse. It's the Kings got slaughtered. No, not really. It's just they got mishandled on a lot of shorthanded opportunities, and unfortunately got beyond the special teams. And Vassied. I mean, hey, but congrats to the captain for scoring the first goal of the season for the Canes. So you love to see it.
I was going to say, talk about a leader plowing through. It's
how about Carrier though? Carrier with the assist. That was a nice, battle behind the net. Was able to get the puck, put it right out to Jordan. He just was able to put it in the net. And congratulations to him, Carrier, for his first point as a Cane game 1. Way to get off the schneid early.
So for anyone that wasn't there or didn't end up watching it, in the first period, Jordan Stahl did get the first Canes goal of the season, assisted by Carrier, of course. Honestly, I think they said something where Jordan had said, "Hey, I will be there at the back door," and Carrier's like, "Bet I can get it to you." So that was good. That got if you didn't, so I got to go, of course. If you did end up going, that place was loud. It was full to capacity. It was loud. I think there's only standing room only. It was great to be back. Everyone came out, showed out. The new graphics are amazing. You just felt like this season was starting, and it was amazing. Even I will say, even though it wasn't their best game, I feel like caniacchic did a pretty good job of sticking around and supporting and just saying, hey, we're here for a fun opening night, Friday night of hockey. Second period, unfortunately, the Lightning did tie it up with a power play goal by point. And so you're like, all right, we're in this 1-1, but if you're just going to give up one in the second period, where sometimes we struggle a little bit, we're like, that's fine. Unfortunately, our third period team did not show up as much. And it was another power play goal and then 2 empty netters. Kucherov just went off in the third.
Natural Hattie, man. You hate to see when it's a natural Hattie against you. It's like H, but.
And I will say, I know it, like me bringing up, the pull of the goaltender, it kind of sounded a little negative, Nancy, but I think honestly, this was a really good kind of, hey, wake up, the season just started kind of game for the Canes too.
I mean, hey, let's be honest too. At least we didn't lose 6-0 right off the rip. So I mean, it could be a lot worse to these other teams.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I mean it could be
favorites. Yeah. But yeah, so moving on from that game, the vibes were a little bit different going into our second game versus the Devils. Of course, everyone was very excited to get back and see the guys in person, but it's a Tuesday, so it's not as rowdy. It wasn't maybe as like crazy. And I think you're also everyone's a little apprehensive, all right? Because again, we hadn't lost a season opener in quite a while. And it's coming after a big off season of us acquiring a bunch of new guys, new lines. So
the vibes weren't there.
The vibes weren't apprehensive. There. Like you're kind of thinking, okay, we can take the Devils, but it was also kind of like, can we still take the Devils? Like it was like a weird.
Especially too when they've played 5 games already. You've played 1. Technically, you're supposed to play 2, but Hurricane Milton decided to change things up a little bit. So yeah, it's definitely
heart goes out to Hurricane Milton victims as well. I know don't want to spend too much time getting off track, but again, heart goes out to anybody in the Tampa area or anybody affected by Milton.
Yeah, well, it's Tropicana Field. Yeah, that thing got ripped to shreds. But yeah. So you, like I said, you go into the game. You're 5. The Devils already played 5. They're 4-1. I mean, Jake Allen's got a 0.5 goals against. Markstrom's, I know, was a little bit high, but still 2-1. It's one of those things. And Steph Nason going into the game, leading the team with 6 points, 4 assists. I mean, hey. All stick taps to Steph Nason on an absolute heater to start the season with the Devils. But it's just, you go into the game, you're like, all right, you gotta hope you bring it because it's your divisional rival at this point, and it's one of the teams you're going to be fighting against for the division title. So it's definitely vibes are very, very.
It's also a team that you kind of bullied as like a little brother last season. Like you're kind of like, I know
into the playoffs 2 years ago too. Like even in the playoffs 2 years ago,
like
the second
let
round,
little brother come up and be kind of taken over there. So, and it was, and with former Canes on the team,
lot of how was it? Eric Holland now is like what 1-17,
1-7, 0-1 in Lenovo Center, but I think it's 1-7.
I think it was 17.
It's 1-7. It's 1-17. But
counting playoffs.
So going into the game, I was talking about previewing like, okay, what goalie would you want to go with? And I said, well, you don't want Piotr waiting until the start of the road trip because you're talking, 2 weeks without any game action for him. That's why I'm like, you got to go Piotr for game 2 against the Devils because that way at least you're getting some game action. Then you're looking at, okay, Freddie possibly Friday. Then you've got, Piotr for Saturday. And at least that way you're not having your goalie sit. Now Freddie has sit a week, unfortunately. So, I mean, what do you think about that? How the fact of trying to go into the games, like who do you go with such a 4-day break and then going right into a back-to-back this weekend?
I mean, honestly, I wasn't super surprised that Piotr was the choice for the Devils game.
No, I'm glad they went with him. I said they have to go with Piotr in this game.
Yeah.
It made sense.
I kind of have the thought of Bailey. I kind of have the thought of in the next game go with Piotr and then go back to Freddie give Piotr a rest. Piotr's currently the hot goalie.
Well, and so that was kind of the point that I was going to bring up too. And so you look at press releases that Rod's done too, and how he hasn't exactly decided how the goalie system's going to work yet. If there's a
He's
clear
not going to say
starter,
it too.
no, he's not going to. If you
No.
know Rod Brindamore, you know
he already said it.
absolutely...
He already said it. He already said it before the season. Guys, don't ask me. I'm not going to tell you.
And then somebody asked and they got their answer. So that's whatever. But no, he did kind of mention, he was like, I don't know if somebody's going to get 60 starts. We're going to do like a 60-20 if we're going to have a clear starter, or it could be that, could be a clear mix, like a super good mix of the two guys, because obviously, I mean, and it doesn't take anybody can see that these are two very capable goaltenders. Goaltending was a huge issue last season too, but now that we've got Freddie back, and hopefully we've got him for the entire season, fingers crossed, but we've got two very capable goaltenders. We've got Piotr, who, if the New Jersey game is anything to go by, his confidence is top tier right now. That poke check, it's already
Puck Chekhov is already here. Like we're feeling good. We're feeling
so
good.
I really will say it, like I think Piotr would be a good start for next game, just so you're kind of keeping both guys fresh. Yes, obviously Anderson hasn't played in a little while. I think giving him the time to rest, especially given what happened last season too, and as soon as he comes back, like, he's the guy you go with. He's the guy that helped get you where we got to playoffs, or where the Canes got to playoffs. And so I really think having a healthy mix, just to kind of feel out each goaltender within the first maybe 10, 20 games of the season, is a really, really good way to go with this.
Yeah, I would continue. Again, like I said, I would probably play Piotr the next game. In my opinion, I think you ride whatever goaltender is hot for a game or two. So I would play Piotr the next game. And since the next one's a back-to-back, then you've got Freddie to come in. And then if Freddie does well, okay, so when is the next game? Then you can decide, okay, do we want to go with Freddie again, or give him – like the back-to-backs, I feel, will kind of help switch it up. And also we're kind of seeing how they're playing. I think the guys should play well in front of both goaltenders. They're comfortable with both of them. They're familiar. And unless it is a game where, yes, they played out of their mind, but maybe it went into overtime. Maybe they had to make an extraordinary amount of saves, or maybe they just had a bad game. I don't see why you wouldn't play the winning goaltender for a little bit until you're like, all right, they should probably use a break, or it's a back-to-back or something like that. So that would be my opinion. I mean, they're 1A, 1B. He hasn't really said, again, like you said, he hasn't really done a first starter goalie. I don't know why you wouldn't kind of go back and forth.
And I was going to say the back and forth might be a good opportunity too, especially given that you've got 2 weeks on the road coming up here. Like, you've got a lot of games where guys are going to be away from home, away from their families. They're going to be like, as soon as that halfway point of the road trip hits, they're going to be itching to get home. They're going to be itching to, get back to some semblance of normalcy. And so I think keeping things fresh without, like, yes, you ride the hot goaltender to a point. I personally believe riding the goaltender, that's more of a kind of playoff kind of vibe for me. I really do believe in regular season, if you have goaltenders that you can trust, obviously, I mean, some teams don't. We're fortunate enough that we have 2 goaltenders that we could put on the ice and trust that they can do well. I really think that while they're kind of in this kind of rough 2-week period, to keeping things fresh, making sure, keeping them on their toes, making things a little bit interesting to kind of get them through this road trip is I think, the way that they go.
Well, if you think about it too, last year when Freddie came back, what did the Hurricanes do? They basically alternated them throughout the rest of the season to where Freddie was 13-2, and he had a 7-game winning streak and had 3 shutouts in the process. But that was him going every other game. So I agree with you, Bailey. I think if it's a way to, if you're going to have Piotr be the guy next season when Freddie's contract's over, it's good to have a nice balance. So I think right now having that alternate swap off might be the best thing to do, especially when you're going to Pittsburgh, St. Louis, and then Western Canada, throwing in Seattle as the second to last game before you go to Vancouver to finish up that trip. And for me, I'm hoping that this Western Canadian trip is a lot better than last year's, because that was brutal. And that's not even including the fact that, like I said, we're going to Seattle. Now, how they're going to be, who really knows by that point? But yeah, I agree with that. I think a good like just alternating for this 6 games and give them 3 each might work out best.
And I'm not saying alternate, like, yeah, you got to go with one guy this game and then you can't go with him the next game too. Like, I do think 3 games each would be ideal. Not that they have to like, but I'm not saying they also that has to be like a consecutive switch off, you know?
Well, yeah, true. I mean, however you want to do it, if you want to go back to back for 2, if there's enough time in between, then yeah, that's fine as well. I'm just saying you should have a nice even split of 3 and 3 between both of those guys. Unless you really think they're on an absolute like stupid run where you're getting a shutout and a bunch of saves, then yeah, if you want to go 4-2, fine, that works out perfectly as well. But I think at minimum should be 3 and 3 just to get through this trip. And however you want to do it, that's what Sean Felder and Rod Brindamore and Tim Gleason got to figure out.
And point. I know you touched on again with the upcoming road trip, but we need to stick with and finish talking about the Devils, of course. Piotr had a great game against them. The lines looked a lot like it was the same lineup, but you felt a lot more urgency and a lot more Canes hockey coming. There's a lot more pressure. Everyone seemed a little bit more comfortable. While he was kept off the score sheet until the end with an empty netter, Aho did seem to be coming back into himself. I will say again, I think Svech and Jarvis stood out the most on that line, which is a little interesting. Like you're thinking, okay, Aho, but of course, Brindamore's not worried about him. And to be fair, other seasons, I felt like Aho's also had a slow start. Like it's kind of
he's always a slow starter.
Yeah, and that's fair because he really heats up at the end when you need him. Mm-hmm. So I'm not that worried about him, especially if his line mates are doing what they need to do. I mean, look, Seth Jarvis got his first of the season and the first.
What a goal!
Tie us up. Of course, Jack Hughes got the first one on us, but you've got Jarvis coming right back in there and saying, "Nope, I'm here too."
That was a nice Spinorama goal, and the fact that he top shelved it over Markstrom's shoulder.
Let me just say for the he's in his senior year, correct? Is that what we've decided? So in his senior year, like let me just talk about how much hockey sense this guy has. To sit there because this is a situation in which you've got guys surrounding you. You can pass it. You've got a little bit of traffic in the lane, but that is a perfectly placed, perfect confidence. I got this kind of goal for me.
You love to see someone not afraid to shoot it,
right? That's exactly what we need this season too.
And the fact that he used Dougie Hamilton as a screen, even better. Like way to burn an X Kane on your new goalie. But yeah, like you said, Billy, his IQ is absolutely insane. He even talked about during his press conference. He's always asking Rod questions and always wanting to try to get better. So yeah, if you're asking a legend like Rod Brindamore, hey, how can I get better? Your hockey sense is only going to just exponentially get better as you go on. And the fact that we got this kid locked up for another 8 years.
And that's
it's gonna be great.
Oh gosh, way to prove your contract. I will say what a goal to prove your
automatically. It's just like, all right, yeah, we're good. There's Seth.
It just keeps getting better. So like, of course, Seth Jarvis being like, hey, by the way, this is why I'm Mr. Moneybags. But you get another familiar face that you're like, we need him to produce. That's why we brought him back. But you get, it's spooky season. You get a ghost goal, and
what a snipe.
Same spot, same shoulder, same top cheese. Hey, there's the cookie jar. Let's hit it twice because why not? I'll say this though. How about this? The goal. We'll talk about the goal. The setups though, because Kat, you mentioned one of the guys earlier, and Bailey, me and you were kind of like, we've been liking this guy so far this season. Jesperi Kotkaniemi, back-to-back games, 50% plus on. First game 70, it was like 75% or something like that. Game 2 was 55%. KK's faceoffs are absolutely unreal right now. That setup to get it to Martin Necas, who then set up Shane Gostisbehere, who used double screens on Markstrom to score that goal as well. I will say KK has come out flying this year already.
Listen, his faceoff percentage is amazing.
It's stupid
his defense is great. I don't think anyone will silence the critics until he is scoring a whole bunch.
And this is where I was going to come into is
he's a defensive guy. He's a defensive center. Like, just get over it. Like,
let me just say though, and somebody in my mentions took the words completely out of my mouth too. I don't know what Jesperi Kotkaniemi did to piss off the hockey god so much, but he had an opportunity to hit. Oh God, was it Markstrom?
He hit the crossbar or the post.
It was a post, but he had a perfect opportunity in front of Markstrom, and Markstrom did Markstrom things, you know. Ended up shutting out, but it was a perfect opportunity for Jesperi Kotkaniemi, and I want that goal for him. It's just
so annoying because he does all the other work. It's not like he's not doing anything else, and he's struggling all over on the ice. He's not. He's doing all the other work. Absolutely. And honestly, he's a little bit like.
He's bitten with
the stall. Well, he's bitten with the stall bug because for a while Stahl did the same thing. Stahl does everything else. By the time you get in front of the net, he's like, and can't get it through.
Same, but that's what I'm saying. Like, and that's the thing I always keep saying. Jesperi Kotkaniemi is going to be your Jordan Stahl 2.0, where he's going to be that defensive center that's going to do everything you need him to be the shutdown guy, be the guy who's going to facilitate, and he has really picked up the throwing the body department, like bodies at the floor. This is what he's going to be doing. I think he's basically listened to that song all the time now, where but it's just, you saw it get, he smokes Cal Clutterbuck in the playoffs. He comes into this season already throwing the body, and just being able to do that, where you're talking about battling for the puck, set it up perfectly to Martin Nietzsche, and Nietzsche sets up Shane Gottsespierre, and thank gosh we got Shane back. I'm excited. I said this is one of the main guys I was excited to watch this season because I loved it when we had him the first time. Now you got him for 3 seasons. What he can do offensively on the power play and stuff like that. He's already been through the system once, and you heard it from him post game after the second one against the Devils. Yeah, it's a nice get up for him for the fact that he's not so far behind, and he can be able to help Sean Walker out and still be able to learn from Slavin. And I mean, you got Tim Gleason. That's not a bad thing either. So it's a nice spot to have him in there where it's like, yeah, you kind of remember what you did while also having to not remember what you did in Detroit. But yeah, Shane Gostisbehere's goal, he was fired up because you saw his reaction. The fact that he wanted to be here. Like the minute the Hurricanes said, hey, we want you, done deal. Like he wanted to be a Carolina Hurricane, and that's what you want to see out of a guy like him. And I'm glad he scored his first goal.
It felt like he wanted to. Like when he left us the first time, unfortunately with Pesce and Shea, there wasn't the spot for him that he originally really wanted with the team. And I think the moment it opened up, he was like, "Oh yeah, I wish I had been there before. It just didn't fit at the time, and now it fits." And I know. Hold on. Sorry, Bailey. I know we have a few more things we want to say, especially about the Devils game, and then we're going to talk about the road trip. But I'm going to take a brief pause for us and have a quick word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back to finish talking all about those Devils.
Hockey is back. From the sounds of the board slamming to the eruption of a game-tying or game-winning goal, there's nothing quite like experiencing hockey in person. At GameTime, you can get in on the action for hockey, other sport events, concerts, and shows. GameTime has a new feature called GameTime Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play and your favorite shows live even easier. GameTime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Looking ahead, when the Rangers come to town on November 27th to the Lenovo Center, you'd expect the ticket prices to be through the roof, considering fans from Cary might make their way over, but that's not the case with GameTime. The super deal available right now, Section 109, Row G, just $155. Amazing deals like Section 309 for $51. Available on GameTime. And GameTime Picks makes it easy for you to find deals on sports, concert shows that you want to get to. Even last call deals for even better savings. I love the idea of the last call feature that, if you just want to spontaneously go to a show, a sporting event last second, you still find great deals. Plus, when you buy, get the view of your seat, so you don't even have to question the sight line that you'll have. So GameTime Picks, again, just makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more by curating your experience. All-in pricing, if you toggle this on, that feature shows you the total up front, so there's no surprise fees at checkout. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime Picks. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code THPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code THPN for $20 off. Download GameTime today. What time is it? Game time. The quest for the Stanley Cup starts now. The puck's dropping on the 24-25 season. Get in on all the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. It's super easy for first-timers to get started. Try betting on something simple, like picking a team to win. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, select your team, and place your first bet. Look into something like winning the MVP, division winners, and more, also available at DraftKings. And if you're new to DraftKings, listen up. New customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That is code THPN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Our OG sponsor, Primo X Hockey. Whether it's apparel, bags, goalie gear, jerseys, you name it, Primo X. Yeah, even a couple buckets for you. Primo X Hockey has it for you. They are located here in Raleigh, 1401 Diggs Drive, Suite E. Monday through Friday, they're open 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Even have availability and times open on the weekend from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturday and 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Sunday. So for local pickup, save 20% with code in-store pickup online. How about that deal? Also use code SurgeCast for 20% off your Sebastian Aho deals as well. So even skate sharpening, $5. How about that deal? Primo X Hockey. They have all the hockey gear to get you right for the season.
All right, and we're back. Sorry, Bailey. What was the thought you had?
Welcome back from ads. No, I will say too, as we talked about, Ghost fitting into that spot really, really well. I will say that pairing with him and Walker, I think, is a beautiful fit. The chemistry,
you would.
Oh no! I mean,
hey, Shane Willis said it too. Shane Willis said it too.
Have I mentioned that I'm really excited about Sean Walker? Anyway,
I think Shane Willis and everyone else would kind of agree with you that we're all glad that Sean Walker is a Carolina Hurricane for 5 seasons at $3.6 million. Talk about Eric Tulsky working his magic. Just him and Ghost at those deals.
The fact, that we have this pairing. This pairing, I think, is perfect work from Rod Brindamore and the crew, because the chemistry that they possess so far, the way that they balance each other out so well, because Sean Walker is not a huge, he'll push up when necessary, but he's not let me score first kind of defenseman. No, he's a good
two-way. He's a great
two-way defenseman.
Sneaky offense. Let's not forget.
Some wheels. He's got some wheels.
He does.
He is fast.
He does, which is why it makes me so excited. The fact that, yes, he'll push up when he needs to, but him on the back check, it gives him that opportunity. And I think it gives Ghost that little bit of reassurance. Okay, I can sit here and do what I'm known to do. I can sit here
what Chatty does for Orlov and what Simon will do for Burns every now and then.
Right. And this is something that Shane said too in the post game. It's the fact that with this system, it's a lot tougher because you're always constantly moving. And he said, I am a great skater. And you can see that when he's going up and down the ice. And the same thing for Sean Walker. Sean Walker is a very underrated skater. And I think for the fact that this system is going to fit these guys perfectly so well. That's why you're already seeing success 2 games into the season, where it's like these guys have been playing together forever, but it's only 2 games into the regular season.
And Brett Pesce and Brady Shea might be doing well with their respective teams now, and I wish them all the best. But to sit here and watch this thrive between a new pairing that they've never worked together before, as far as I'm aware, and you're sitting there pairing them together, and you're seeing this blossom into something that works really, really well for the system and
I will say,
the culture that Rod's trying to create. It makes me so excited.
I will say, outside of the pairing of 7 and 77, we haven't really missed with defensive pairings, and thankfully we eventually saw the light with that one, that as much as maybe on paper we thought it might work.
7 and 5 are so good together. Yes. 75 is perfect.
I was talking with somebody too, and they were like, Orlov's contract, and he's playing third pair minutes.
But also, how much has Orlov grown?
It's not really third pair.
But think about how much Orlov has grown. Like Orlov,
absolutely.
And we were actually talking. We were looking at the game and the way Orlov was playing, and our unpaid intern was actually like, how much has Orlov scored previously? And I think his season high for back when he was on the Caps, I think he had like 35.
His prime, yeah.
And I was like, he was like, oh, honestly, I was expecting more. And I was like, yeah, you would think maybe for what we paid him for. But I was like, honestly, the way he started to flourish in our system, I was like, it works for a guy like that. Like he's going to get the assist. He's going to get that power shot to net, whether it goes in or he gets that tip in.
Well, it's the short term. That's why it was so much higher, because they didn't want to give him a longer term. If it was like, say, 3 or 4 years, and that AAV would have been down a lot farther. But just because of the fact that he wanted so much money, but we were only going to give him 2 years, that's why it's so high compared to everyone else. So that's that weird how you want to balance this out.
No, and like I didn't bring that up to sit here and say, oh, I agree with them. Like
I'm just saying that's how it works out.
But I just think it's so interesting, like that you're seeing a lot of similarities up and down this blue line. They all work very similarly. You've got a guy that pushes up, you got a guy that maybe throws a little bit more body than the other, and then you got a guy who can back check like his life depends on it. And I think
Shane Goss is on that 2-on-1 though. Oh my goodness, that was a great.
I thought I was watching number 74 out there for a little bit.
I mean, hey! When you get that Jacob Slavin effect where it just kind of his magic just falls on you like magic dust, you're good. It's fine.
Yeah,
it's just that holy essence that is Jacob Slavin just working into your game. But yeah, no. Overall, I mean, yeah, that goal that Gostisbehere had, just the whole team that they played, and let's not talk about the fact too that we had a couple more great goals as well, Kat. I mean.
Oh, yeah. During the third period, we have the Devils seeing red, and not in the good kind for them. Because not only did we have a fan favorite in Jarvis, a old Kane come back to us in Ghost, but you have the new kid on the block, which is funny seeing like Jarvis turning into Big Brother when little brother becomes
with the head pats off the bench and stuff like that, and the post game.
Yeah, Jackson Blake gets his first goal in the NHL.
A goal, too.
Not just his first NHL point, his first NHL goal, which I think is huge.
He said he blacked out. He goes, I don't remember. I just remember Orlov coming to hug me.
also, let's not forget his first game-winning goal, too. So that's a lot of fun. I was going to
bring that up as
well. I would say, though, that tip over Markstrom's shoulder. Markstrom got beat 3 times over the shoulder, almost in the same spot. And just the way he placed his stick perfectly was so great. And the celebration, I like how Seth was like, I understand it's your first goal. I'm going to give you a pass. So you get a 7 out of 10 on your celebration score. I did like his yelling and then just speed bagging right past the bench. But that was just a fantastic wherewithal and hand-eye coordination, just put it in a perfect spot to where you're roofing that puck over Markstrom in a really tight spot.
Oh, yeah. And I'd like to bring to attention, too, something that Rod said during the post-game locker room talk, too, which he looked at the entire room and was like, you guys may not remember this game. That kid's going to remember this game because of how special that goal was. Again, just to reiterate, first NHL point, first NHL goal, first game-winning goal.
And he's 21, and he absolutely just flourished in the offseason. And the fact that Blaker, which is his nickname, very interesting. I'm curious to see how. Let's throw an R at the end of Blake and let's just go with it. But no, just that whole emotion of just him scoring that goal and just seeing how the whole team is already loving it. Like that shows you the culture that this kid is going into. He hasn't even played half a dozen games, and this team's already like, yeah, no, this is our dude. And he's like,
and a little unfortunate is the NHL decided to do NHL things. And then later on in the period, they called a tripping on him, which honestly wasn't a trip.
Wasn't a trip.
And that of course,
the
dominoes fall is
benefit of the doubt
stick was
call.
nowhere near his skates.
Chip Tracy said that was a benefit of the doubt call, and they did not give it to the rookie. Like that is like.
And he was making a case for himself. He was talking to him just like that picture of Jarvis that everyone loves. But he was talking to him, and unfortunately, the dominoes fell a little bit. Is that, of course, while we're killing that unnecessary of a penalty, that wasn't a penalty. We get a delay of game penalty, which it was interesting. That one was very clear, but we did have to remind everyone that this is now a new change in rules, that if it hadn't actually been a delay of game, Rod could have challenged it. But unfortunately it was. And so we went on a 5-on-3, which we killed for a little bit. And then we got a little iffy of positioning from Piotr, and we got a right between him and the near post.
Yeah.
By Hersher to make it, I believe,
it was
3-2 at the time,
3-2.
And then you get the empty netter from Aho to seal it out. But which was off a very bad change from the Devils. I was like, oh, all the Devils are coming on the ice, and then I looked down and I was like, oh, they don't have a goalie in that. And then I just had Aho with the puck, and he was like, all right, I'll shoot it.
You would have been better though if you passed it to Piotr and Piotr went for a goalie goal, because I mean Gustafsson did it for Minnesota. That would have been so great to see Piotr do it too. It's like, hey, he did it for Chicago. He did it for Carolina. All right, he's done. He doesn't need to do anything else. But hey, it's good to see Seabass get his first as well. So
the only thing about that game I felt a little bad about is that Nathan had to skate off the ice instead of participate in the Storm Surge with us this time. But we got our first Storm Surge of the season. They get to go, of course, celebrate with Jackson Blake. And
I think he just skates into the middle. He's like, all right, just let's get it over with. Like,
you get your 3 stars with your third star being Seth Jarvis. Honestly, it goes in the goals. Third star, Seth Jarvis. Second star, Shane Gostisbehere. And first star, Jackson Blake.
I mean, deservedly so. I mean, that just makes sense of how that worked out. Of course, Blake got to talk to Hannah Yates, and you just see how everyone's already loving him. And he's already loving playing in front of the fans. Yeah, this kid's gonna be a fan favorite. And I saw Moose already talking about, yeah, this is a great 53. I don't think there's anyone else that's good in that jersey. I'm like, oh,
let's just
here
talk
we go.
About how. Let's talk about how the last guy to wear 53 for our team won the Calder Trophy at the end of his rookie season.
I see where you're going with this.
Let's talk about how we've got another 53 making huge waves already with this team.
I mean, that'd be great.
I'm not saying he's going to win the Calder. I'm not making that.
Hey, there's a chance.
I would love to see it.
So you're saying there's a chance.
So you're saying there's
there is.
Even 0.00000001 is still a chance.
Me with my unfortunate league-wide hockey sense says there's some guys that may beat him out for it. But I'm just saying, not that he's going to win the Calder, but let's just talk about how we've had 2 legendary rookies wear that number. I would also like to bring up, while we're not talking about the score sheet, I want to talk about Jack Roslovic for a little bit too. And I know we mentioned during the Tampa Bay game, he was very not impressed, okay, we could see some other guys here maybe do a little bit better. I personally really liked Roslovic's game during the Devils game. He had a few different breakaway chances that looked like they could have turned into something. And I really enjoyed watching him kind of take that step forward during this game.
Yeah, he Mike has said it a lot, and I even reiterated it too. Like, even with Winnipeg and Columbus, he is a very underrated player who's got some really good speed. And Seth even said it too in the offseason. He's like, I am really impressed by Jack Roslovic's speed. He is zipping. Him and how about Eric Robinson too? Eric Robinson
had a great game.
He had a great game against the Devils. Him and Blake are almost doubled up Markstrom, because they both had opportunities where Robinson tried to fight the guy off, board battled, got to the other side, and still tried to set up Blake on the other side as well. Blake even had an opportunity. Robinson, I liked his game in Columbus, and he even did pretty decently too with the Rochester Americans and the Buffalo Sabres as well. Another guy who's got some underlying speed, and someone that the Hurricanes could really benefit from as a fourth liner and as a PK guy too. So I would definitely not overlook Eric Robinson and his contributions. He played. It's not a flashy. It's not a flashy. He's going to put up 50 points a season, but he's still someone that you can really utilize in a whole lot of other aspects beyond the score sheet. So I agree with you, Bailey. Roslovic did really good. Also Robinson too. Something about that Columbus connection with those guys. Something might work here. I think
they all did really good. And again, And I know it's beating a dead horse because I know I talked about it some last seasons too. I need to see more from Natchez.
I was going to bring this up too.
I want to see more from it. If you're going to see if you're seeing now KK doing his job in the defense, you're seeing Roslovic kind of come into this thing. How is Natchez going to play with his teammates?
I will say though, Natchez had some moments during the Devils game where I was a little I was impressed with his stick handling. I was impressed with his hockey sense and being able to find some of the guys. There's still that step forward for him to take. And to be honest, I'm a little interested to see how this shakes out because I think with Natchez re-signing here, there's a little bit of an expectation to receive a little bit more from Rod and from the team in regards to his wants and what he wants to bring to the team too. So I'll be interested to see if and when he gets that this season too, and how that kind of works out for him and shakes out for him in the long run. I do think there's a little bit to prove here too, because there's a lot. He's very hot and cold. And we've noticed that in seasons past too. We've noticed he kind of goes quiet during playoffs a little bit. Yes, he's known for his overtime winners, but I would like to see a little bit more consistent production from him. He's got great stick handling when he can learn not to be selfish with the puck. But I think he's got the great hockey sense to take that next step forward. And I'm interested to see again when that happens.
$6.5 million, man. You guys start producing. I'm sorry. You guys know, and everyone who's listening to the podcast, I was on the Murray Natchez train 2 seasons ago when everyone was about ready to get rid of this kid before he broke out for 71. I'm just trying to say this nicely. You got to raise, man. You went from 3 to 6.5. You got to start. Yeah, you might have a slow start. I understand that, but you really got to be clicking. I understand too, Bailey. Like, I will love to see him thrive, but if this stretches into where you're in the middle of the West Coast, the Western Canadian trip, and you're still not putting up the points and still not being the guy we need you to be at 6.5, I'm going to start having some questions because, man, you really got to get going for that.
And I was going to say this is a nice transition into the road trip kind of talks as well. Yep. And I would like to mention too, our road trip stats were not the greatest last season.
Especially West Canada, that was brutal. Yeah. 0 for 4.
So,
that Calgary game.
Three quick points before we got to jump into our road trip predictions. I will say again, we can't forget the Hurricanes are now 49-3-4 in regular season games when Seth Jarvis scores a goal.
Thank you, Kate Statbrand, for updating that as always.
The Hurricanes 4-2 win against New Jersey also marked our 70th consecutive sellout at Lenovo Center.
Love
capacity 18,000. I mean, it's a pretty big deal, even though people say there's not that many people, like maybe 10 people. Yeah. And then of course it was really fun is apparently Darren York, who drafted Blake, was so excited for him.
Oh yeah. You know, I think it was it was Aho's 600th game. I forget who the other guy was. They said there was like 2 guys who had milestone games, but
I know the other one. Is KK looking for his? Oh gosh. I think KK is looking for a milestone point with the Canes.
Right. It was games played. I think
games played. Okay.
It was Sebastian had 600. I forget who the other one
KK's was 400.
There you go. I was trying to figure who the other one was.
So, yeah. I knew it was KK with something.
So yes, a lot of big things with that second game. But now they're on the road. It's the North Carolina State Fair has come to town. So our boys are hitting the road for 6 games.
PTSD from last season. Oy.
We've got the Penguins, we've got the Blues, the Oilers, the Flames, the Kraken, and Canucks.
And so before we get into predictions as well, I'd like to again bring up last season's State Fair road trip. Last year we played the Kings, the Ducks, the Sharks, the Kraken, the Avalanche, and the Lightning. We only won 2 of those games, one of which was a shootout. So we did drop a point or gave a point to LA. I'm not going to say dropped a point because we still came away with 2.
Thank you, Jordan Martin, for the shootout winner in that one.
Yeah. But we did drop pretty not significant games because obviously West Coast road trip, but they were pretty significant losses to decent and not so decent teams. So I'm really excited to see if they can kind of come with a little bit more grit for this time around too, because they're playing oh gosh, who is it again? Pittsburgh, Seattle, or not Seattle, St. Louis. They're playing Pittsburgh, who, Sidney Crosby can sometimes do some Sidney Crosby things. Edmonton, you're looking at a team
who just got he just got his 1600th point tonight too. So congratulations!
I will say, yeah,
Edmonton with their, they made it to the Stanley Cup final.
Well, of these teams, though, I would say right now Pittsburgh is a little bit on a winning streak. They honestly just finished their game up against the Sabres, and they won in overtime 6-5. I'm not saying their goalie is doing so good, but their scoring is. St. Louis, I mean, if we want to get a goalie goal against them, I would not be upset about it. They might have a little PTSD. It's fine. Edmonton, I'm sorry, but as soon as everyone said they were the Cup favorite, they have been ass.
I would like to bring up a stat, and I know we're trying to keep it Hurricanes related, but I would just like to say 4 different Connors has scored against Edmonton or scored in Edmonton's arena, and not one of them has the last name McDavid.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, you hate to say.
Calgary has been pretty hot. I got to admit it for our boss, Kyle. They've been kind of rolling with it recently. So that one will be a really interesting. I do believe we're going to have a little bit of a watch party with him when we do play Calgary. So stay tuned for that.
Wait. So seriously, we might have to do this a second time where we see the team go up and then lose in front of Kyle.
No, I wasn't even bringing that up, but thank you for speaking that into existence, Zach. We all appreciated that.
I'm still reeling from last year.
Seattle's a little bit of a wild card. I honestly still don't know about the Kraken. They're it's like it could be a hit or miss with them. And then the Canucks have been pretty consistent.
The Canucks, let's okay. While I pull myself together, the Canucks, I think, are a sneaky team because you saw what they're capable of last season. They honestly they went on a huge hot streak last season too. They proved that they're a team that can kind of take it a little bit further than what people thought they were capable of too. So they're kind of a sneaky team to worry about this season.
Their goaltending is, even with Thatcher Demko, their goaltending is still pretty decent with Silva. Silva, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Silvos. We'll go with that.
You also got to sit there and consider they've got one of the best defensemen in the game right now. So
I draft him on 3 different fantasy teams for a reason. You cannot underestimate Quinn Hughes. And let's also not forget they have JT Miller, Elias Pettersson. Oh, they also picked up Jake DeBrusk, who's no slouch himself. So yeah. I would say out of that road trip, I think the Canucks and the Flames are probably the 2 teams I'm most worried about on this trip. And like I said, I had PTSD from last year's Flames game. I do not want to experience this twice, especially in front of Kyle, because he gave it to us last year, and I don't feel like having to do this twice. But I'll ask you both this before we get into our actual win-loss predictions. Over, under 9.5 points. So under would be 9, over would be 10 plus. Or 9 less. So not over
12
under.
Total points to come out of this road trip.
Yep. 12 total points. And you're getting your West Coast trip out. You're getting your Western Canadian trip out of the way earlier instead of how it was last year. It was Western California and then Canada later. But yes, over under 9.5 points.
Kat, I'll let you go first.
Under.
That's kind of where I was going to sit as well.
Under, but right under. I have a feeling it'll be between 8 and 9.
Okay.
I'm kind of the mindset that yes, while the win against New Jersey was huge, this is still a team that's only played 2 games, whereas a lot of teams have a jump on them. They've kind of they've got their full roster set and they've had multiple games to kind of play and get their feet under their skates underneath them, whatnot. The Canes are still kind of trying to get to that point. I think there's still a lot to figure out. I think there's still a lot of gelling and chemistry to kind of be ironed out. And I think this Western road trip is going to be a huge test to that, which is why I'm giving it the under. I think there's a lot to figure out. And I think working on the road, yes, maybe we're not as successful on the road, but I think this is a great opportunity for them to kind of get that under their belt. Because, I mean, a lot of people will sit there and say, the first 10 games really aren't a true tell of who teams are too, because that's when they're still trying to.
American Thanksgiving is the milestone point. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think they kind of take this road trip to kind of figure that out. I don't think, yes, wins are important. Yes, you want to win. Yes, you want to work hard and make sure that's showing on the score sheet. But also want to make sure everything's ironed out before it, so that can come a little more easily.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at. Kat, you want to start us off with predictions?
So I don't have like straight like score predictions.
No.
But like who you think will win, who will win against who will lose.
Yeah.
I would say Pittsburgh at the moment. I could see us maybe going into overtime with them. I could see us maybe going.
So at least bringing out a point. Okay.
Bringing out a point. I want to say win against St. Louis. I want to say win against Edmonton just because they've been struggling so much. Like so much for a team that has been playing for a little bit and like they have the core people still there. And I don't want to be the team they get their shit together with. I'm going to eat my words. I really hope this isn't the case because of Kyle, but we might not get the points with Calgary. I think we don't get the points with Vancouver. Seattle either might be we barely win or it's an overtime. I don't know. It's hard because like what you said, like everyone has their footing and we're just getting it. Mm-hmm. And some of them like, are they still struggling to like, they've been going for a little bit, but they're teams that are tripping as they go, aka Edmonton, and they finally get their footing when they play us, or is it us getting our footing and kind of hitting the road against teams that have been going, but they haven't played the new Canes yet? So yeah. I think that's what I'm on. I'm sorry if that wasn't clear. I can go through them again. I didn't realize I didn't go in order.
Just for the sake of
okay,
for the unpaid intern to do some graphics. Yeah, go through that list one more time.
I would say I see the list of them. I'm reading the list in front of me. Thank you. Sorry, our unpaid intern is
doing unpaid intern things.
I'm literally staring at it as I think and get my brain to function. Pittsburgh, I say that's a toss-up of a win or an overtime. So I say a point out of that at least. I don't know how you want me to say it. I can't decide.
You're saying a point is an overtime loss to Pittsburgh. If you're saying it's a win, it's going to be 2 points.
No.
Thank you, unpaid intern, for clarifying the.
Fine. Overtime loss, Pittsburgh. Win St. Louis. Win Edmonton. Loss Calgary. Win Seattle. Loss Vancouver.
So all right. So I guess you got to figure out how many points that's going to be. Bill, you want to go for yours?
That's 7. I believe that's 7 points.
Was the overtime loss? That's 1, 3.
St. Louis, Edmonton, Seattle is 6. So 7.
So yeah, my prediction, and I'll get into win-loss, overtime loss here in a second. I see
win with Pittsburgh. I'm fine with that because then that brings me up to 8, like I thought.
All right, let's switch that to overtime win for Pittsburgh. There's your 8. I think 8 or 9, 7. It's like.
Well, I didn't think about it, but I do think sorry. Go ahead.
So I see the Hurricanes for me. Hold on. Let me just make sure my math is correct. 2, 4. 6.
Yeah, have fun. I'm glad you got to write it down. I didn't do it off the top of my head.
I see the Canes coming out with 7 points.
Look, we weren't that far off.
So Pittsburgh, I've got them losing in overtime, or the Hurricanes losing in overtime. I've got a win against Seattle. I've got a loss against Edmonton.
She's not going in order either.
Holy crap, dude. Pittsburgh, St. Louis, Edmonton, Calgary, Seattle, Vancouver. Like, stop killing our intern here.
That was the order that was given in our topics. So that's what I wrote.
No, you said Seattle instead of St. Louis.
Oh, I said, okay. No, I meant St. Louis. Okay. Pittsburgh. I see us getting the overtime loss or losing in overtime against Pittsburgh. St. Louis, I see us getting the win. Edmonton, I think we drop a loss in regulation. Calgary, I think is going to be a regulation win. Seattle, I think is going to be a little tough for us. I can see that being an overtime win for us. And then I think we drop Vancouver. So there's my prediction. 7 points.
You got free dinner tonight, intern. Okay, deal with it.
For those of you interested, our unpaid intern is getting very sassy in the chat.
I mean, I'm on his side. I can't really blame him too much. Jeez.
Zach.
Oh yeah, Zach's never stumbled over his predictions ever.
Ever.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Out of 2 podcasts, he's never ever stumbled.
Oh gosh, stumbling over words, stumbling over predictions. Who would have guessed?
All right, let's see, Zach. Go ahead.
All right,
Master class, no judgments.
Master class, no judgments.
Keeping my lips sealed.
Yeah, okay, like that's ever been a thing. I'm going with the over. I'm going over 9.5 for the Canes. So I have Pittsburgh's a win. St. Louis is also a win. I think, so is it 3-6? I think it's going to be a loss to Edmonton, a loss to Calgary, and then it's going to be a win against Seattle, and then an overtime loss to Vancouver. Yeah. So that's the 10. Yeah, because you get your first 2. You figure your first 2 wins for your 6. No.
Nope.
Sorry. There it is. I mathed myself right out of it. Yeah. Sorry.
So
I'm
Pittsburgh,
thinking
St. Louis, and Seattle are wins. Did you say?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Pittsburgh, St.
6
Louis.
points.
Okay.
You said overtime with Vancouver.
Overtime loss to Vancouver. Okay. Then I'm switching my Calgary to a win then for 10. Hey man, I recorded another podcast right before this. I'm very
exactly.
tired.
That's why you can't give us crap and then do it yourself.
Oh, there it is. Instant. I love the instant karma of just absolutely just. All right, you're gonna talk crap, but here's some math.
Zach, are your feet clean?
Nah, maybe I won't throw my stones at glass houses.
Because you just put one in your mouth.
Hey, you know what? I guess I should be throwing stones at glass houses then, huh?
Oh God. Anyway, thanks for listening to the episode, guys.
I mean, is this really the SurgeCast where one of us does just automatically just eats what we already said? So
I would just like to say, aside from laughing, I kept my promise and kept my lips sealed.
Because she muted during it.
No, that's also because I got an Amber Alert, and I didn't.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's that.
Well, that wraps up our predictions and our game recaps for this episode of the SurgeCast. Guys, we're officially rocking and rolling into the 2024-2025 Carolina Hurricanes season. I can't wait, honestly. But again, we'll see how this road trip goes. Everyone, grab your coffee, grab all the caffeine you need to stay up for these next couple of games.
It's going to be a long little road trip for you East Coast.
Light all the candles, do all your spookiness, and give a lot of good luck to the team. But yes, Zach, where can people find you and the network?
You can find me at onetruezach on X. I do have a link to my bio where you can find out all the stuff that I'm doing covering the Carolina Hurricanes. For the network, the hockeypodcastnetwork.com. We got podcasts for pretty much every team and also college hockey. And we got Terry Ryan from Shoresy on there as well. So go check out the amazing network. Bailey, where can people find you?
You can find me over on X at baileyycurtis, and that is Bailey with 2 Y's. Find me over on Instagram at baileyycurtis. I know I started teasing some things on the socials, but as soon as I'm allowed to announce, I know a lot of you are getting impatient. As soon as I am allowed to announce, I'm super excited to share the news that I've got coming. Not exactly Canes related, but it is hockey related. So keep your eyes peeled to my socials for that one. Again, once I am able to announce it, I'm super excited about it. Be sure to follow us over at the SurgeCast on X, Instagram, and YouTube. It is the SurgeCast at the SurgeCast on X and Instagram. Our channel is the SurgeCast on YouTube. If you are watching this on YouTube, hi, hello, how you doing? Be sure to hit that like button down below, hit that bell notification icon so you never miss an episode, as well as that big red subscribe button. Helps us out a lot. We're considering, if we hit some certain milestones, potentially giveaways have been in the talks. So make sure you guys are subscribed and keeping track of episodes when you can. Kat, where can the people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on X, Twix, whatever you call it,
Boo.
at the caniacchic. And you can find me on TikTok at KVT Hunter 74. Nothing changes. Same both places. But yeah. So thanks for listening, guys. We're super excited. Again, stay tuned. We'll have that watch party up next week as we all stay up to watch our Canes on the road.
I unfortunately may be working, so I may have to join a little bit late, but yeah.
You and your bookstore jobs.
Hey, I get 50% off. I'm not complaining.
But anyway, for this time on the SurgeCast, I'm Kat.
I'm Bailey.
I'm Zach.
And we'll see you on these late night games next time.
Bye.
On the SurgeCast.